Hey, everybody, we are the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Kristen.
I'm Dr. Erin.
And you are very welcome to today's conversation. We are two social scientists with PhDs in culture, basically, and believe deeply that in talking about lived and popular culture, we can be fuller versions of humans. That may sound far-fetched, but trust us, not only do we have a lot of research backing it up, but we have a lot of lived experiences that learning culture has made us richer humans. And we're not, that special that it wouldn't work for other people. Hence why we do this work. We've talked everything in this channel, the conversations that we have on YouTube. We've had I'm going to use the word conversation too much today, guys. Sorry, evidently. Today is just the conversation day. We've talked about everything from the importance of flags as a symbol for emotional and national identity, to what we can learn about sexism from Taylor Swift, to paying attention and being aware of unmarked graves around the world. We love having conversations with each other. We do it all the time. We turn on the recording devices so that you can join us and we can learn from you. So please comment, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things so that we can engage with you in your thoughts and comments as well.
This video is a part of our series Colonizers World Tour, which came out of our love and curiosity for travel and different places and learning, and doing some exploration last year that led us to the rather adept conclusion that colonization has had a big impact on the world. I say that sarcastically.
We pulled that one out of a hat, guys. Yeah. Like that,
That's what you're paying us for. You're not, because this is for YouTube. Really radical insights here. But anyway, we decided that using the lens of colonization to look at cultures around the world and how they engage with the world through their history of colonization and other things was a pretty interesting adventure to take. We're spinning the globe, and this month we are in Portuguese colonies, and they only had really 3 big ones because reasons, but they really weren't colonizers in the way that other nations and nation states were. They had a lot of port cities that were quasi colonies. But the 3 big ones we covered already: Brazil, Angola, and Mozambique. And we are now talking about Portugal because we thought that would be interesting to look at it from the colonizer's point of view. So yesterday we did our 101 video, or in the one back in the playlist if you're not watching this live as they drop. And today we're doing our piece of art made by or in or around Portuguese folks. And we've hit a bit of a bump in the road for the film selections, but limited options. We covered the 2000 film Captains of April, Capitães de Abril. My Portuguese is terrible. That deals with the Portuguese Revolution, the Carnation Revolution in 1974. Dr. Kristen, set the stage for us.
It's Lisbon in 1974.
Lisbon, April 24th.
Lisbon, April 24th. So the issue is that Portugal has been under fascist dictator rule for about 40 years at this point. They've been colonizers of Mozambique, Angola, and Brazil. At this point, not Brazil. Brazil has already gotten independence. Yep. So at this point, it's just Africa. It's just Mozambique and Angola. And the Portuguese army and the Portuguese people are being sent to fight these wars. And there is a growing unrest among the military personnel of like, why the hell are we doing this? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And we covered this a little bit in Angola in the movie Another Day of Life, because that was set in the end of colonization in Angola into the Angolan Civil War. And now we're kind of getting the back end of it. So it's the Carnation Revolution started with a Eurovision video that signaled to everybody who was participating in this revolution to do the violentless coup d'etat, to overthrow the fascist government that was doing no good for any of the Portuguese people or their colonies, and to do it had about an 18-month process before that, and then after that to get them to independence again-ish, independence from this fascist dictatorship. The movie could not decide what it was, and it was a telenovela about a romantic epic set during a revolution that it had tangential conversations about, all with very dramatic music.
Oh, that score was something. I loved the score. It wasn't appropriate for the film, but I loved it.
What I just said to Dr. Aaron offline was, like, when you're making a movie, a good rule of thumb is that you can be Les Mis, or you can be Jane the Virgin. You really can't be both. And Captains of April proves that.
Yeah. Oh boy. It's 2 hours. It's a very long 2 hours.
Very long sit for 2 hours. Yeah.
Just in the way it's shot and the, I mean, it struck me as, and at times I thought they were trying to be like very rosy about the revolution.
Yeah.
And like the Portuguese people deciding they'd had enough and it was unjust to be treating Mozambique and Angola and the people there like they were, and all of this. And then we would get like snippets of reality, usually from the character of Colonel Gervaso, played by, I didn't know he was a Portuguese actor, but Joaquim de Almeida, who
I was like, oh my God, hey, it's that guy. Yeah.
Who I know and love from the classic 90s movie Only You.
Yeah.
With RDJ and Marissa Tomei. Oh my gosh, I love that movie so much. I've watched it ungodly amounts of times, but he plays Giovanni, an Italian. So, but as soon as I saw him, I was like, yee. And he's kind of like the hardened, pragmatic, older colonel that you're never quite sure if he's supporting the revolution or not. It goes back and forth, and he's kind of there as the counterbalance to Maya, who's the one of the young captains of April, and keeps saying to him, like, what do you think it's going to be like? Who's going to be in charge of this government? Like, you're naive and all these kind of things. So, but he was so randomly interspersed that I think it was still trying to be a kind of a rosy picture of the revolution. And that's nationalism for you.
Yeah, that's, I mean, like, hagiographic history is a birthright for everybody.
Yeah. But there were too many long scenes of like the crowd supporting the revolution and like chanting and all this. It was trying to be Les Mis with the revolution stuff. And then the drama, like the telenovela drama, was just so random.
And that wasn't what I was signing up for. Like, when the movie opened with these two characters that I think were supposed to maybe be comic relief, I have absolutely no idea, like making out in a train station with a level of drama reserved for like early adolescent, your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, kissing goodbye at the mall on a Friday night, like
eating each other's faces off. But it opened with a whole bunch of mutilated bodies. Do you remember?
Oh, that's true. Oh my God, I forgot about that. I blocked that. And then we go into making out in a train station. And I was like, what the hell is happening?
What is this narrative whiplash we never get? And so, like, for me, we talked about this offline. Like, I would have loved if they would have chased some of those ideas of
revolution is messy.
Colonialism and ending colonialism is messy. And there was a lot of moral arguments about Portugal being in these places, and the two men who the two captains, who were real people, but they weren't the only two people to start the revolution. Maya and Manuel, like, were so horrified by what they were asked to do in Angola, that they vowed to like change the fascist regime, which is totally believable. This happens all the time with people who are soldiers in wars.
And we know from the Carnation Revolution, documents that we've read, that that's why it started.
Yeah.
But there's also no there was no acknowledgement either that just leaving these countries was going to screw them too. And there's no way that nobody knew that. Like, there's no way that there was no meeting where somebody didn't bring that up.
Or somebody wasn't like, maybe we should help them. No, we're just going to leave. Cool.
Yeah, maybe we then send aid. Maybe we do something like, oh, look, the British have left a lot of countries. Let's have a chat with them about how to do it or how not to do it. No. So it was very obviously made to make Portugal proud of itself, which is cool. America has 14.9 million of those movies.
Oh, for sure.
So Mazel Tov, go for it. And I read a couple reviews that were like, listen, I'm Portuguese and I'm telling you that you cannot understand this movie if you didn't grow up in our school system, which is totally valid. And they were just like, but that makes it for me, a couple of the reviewers are like, that makes it for me a lesser movie, because a really good movie about the Carnation Revolution I should be able to show anywhere. And then some people were like, oh, this was so romantic and I got caught up in it. And so there was a lot of back and forth about, from it appeared, people claiming Portuguese citizenship, descent, culture, whatever, that they're not sure how to feel about this movie either, which was really interesting. It did really well when it came out, from what we can tell, in the theaters, but I'm also wondering if it's one of those that just didn't age as well.
Yeah, I mean, 2000 was a long time ago.
In a lot of ways.
And yeah, I mean, I think, anytime we're talking about revolutions, y'all, we have to make at least one Hamilton reference.
It's the law.
But I think it was interesting that they had those conversations. Again, they were too few and far between for me, but conversation between Maya and Manuel about basically, I don't care if I'm written in the history books, as long as we get rid of the fascist regime. And the general of the military comes in, it swoops in at the end and takes the credit and gets the resignation of the president and all this kind of stuff. And these two are kind of pushed out of history. It appears from the movie. I haven't done enough research to know if that was true. If we have any Portuguese friends out there, help us out. And I'm all for including stories of people that have been written out of history. Yeah. But it was just done in a messy way. It was just too disjointed.
Yeah.
And the parts that were interesting, or conversations that I found interesting, weren't enough to justify.
Yeah, then we go back to somebody eating someone else's face in a tank.
I was so tired at the end of this movie, y'all. I was it aged me.
It just wasn't enjoyable. I don't feel like I learned much. And I wanted more from it based on the description of the movie itself.
Yeah, it's almost like they had two writers, right? And somebody was writing the smaller bits, got to say the stuff about, legitimacy and military and all this kind of stuff. Even one of the greatest lines in it was this throwaway line where one of their military cars breaks down and they're like, well, we have to get it fixed. We have to replace it. And the one guy just goes, everything that works is in Africa. And I was like, that's really interesting. And then they were like, romance. And I was like, and the person who wrote the romance bits got more of the script to write. I don't know. And
I love a romance, obviously. We love romance here on the show. But the overdrawn of it just got old. It just got old. And part of the goal for the Colonizers World Tour is to learn more about the culture. When we were searching for movies about Portugal, there was lots and lots and lots of American movies set in Portugal, lots of British movies set in Portugal, and not a lot of ease of us being able to find movies made by Portuguese people for Portuguese people that we could access on streaming. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh man, they should have watched, please link us. We'd love to know it. I spent a while. And at one point we had settled for doing a night train to Lisbon because it was like, oh, well, at least it'll show us Lisbon. At least. And that one got pretty panned, but I'm wondering if I would have had a better time watching it.
Oh boy, I don't know. Yeah. this one had potential. It could have been a good 90-minute movie.
It could have been a contender.
It could have been a contender. As it stands, it's not a very good 2-hour movie at all.
No. But good news, we're going to go somewhere super uplifting and really happy next. JK, oh. This is the Colonizers World Tour, friends.
Nothing happy abounds. No, that's not true, but wait.
We're wading into more complication because Brazil wasn't enough. And so actually next up on our Colonizer World Tour, we're going to be doing French colonies.
Yep.
If you would like a great lesson in how not to colonize. So from the Portuguese, we got how not to leave.
Right.
And from the French, we're going to get how not to colonize.
Y'all.
Woo! And our first stop is Haiti.
Like, gird your loins. I didn't know a lot about Haiti going into this. If you don't, it's just like verbal. We're just gonna fire hydrant knowledge at you. Man. If you're not excited about that, you should be.
We'll tell you up front, we already know that next year is going to be a month in Brazil, a month in Haiti, and a bunch of other countries and some other foci. But even join us for our first dip into the Haitian narrative and the Haitian conversation, because then we're going to spend about 6 months doing more research. And we'll see you again next year for Haiti. But next week is the toe dip into Haiti, and we'll see you then.
Bye, everybody.